Hey there, Cutter! Welcome to my first DM log. So these series of video I'll make after every episode release. And the idea behind them is to give you a little bit more context about some lore about Sigil. It can be about homebrew rules. I'll also give you some homebrew items. It can be new spells, can be adaptation from older rules, as I'm using a lot of advanced Dungeons and Dragons, so the second edition materials that I'm adapting to Mobius. So anything that comes up in the episode that I think is interesting, I'll address it here in the DM logs. Oh, Doge? Ita. So these video series are just extra content that I'll be uploading to enrich the Planescape setting of Mobius, but also just stuff for Dungeons and Dragons. So I'll start with the narrator. So Lord Big and Smalls, if you've listened to the podcast, he's the first voice that addresses the listener, and he's quite weird. This character will be a recurring one, and he is there to help the listener transition from episode to episode. So he'll be there to do a recap, but also help the listener to get a better context of where the characters are going, where they are, and also help the listener learn the slang of Sigil. So Sigil uses a lot of very idiosyncratic lingo, and that's what makes it so special, in my opinion. The Landscape Torment game used it a lot, and it stuck with me quite a bit. So I want to use it a lot. The players also use it. And so Big and Small will be there to help you guys learn the lingo. You'll also be seeing the lingo in the episode's name. A lot of the lingo is actually Tiefkant. So if you guys don't really know what Tiefkant sounds like, the lingo in Sigil is a lot of words that is taken from Tiefkant, the historical Tiefkant or beggars lingo that was used in Elizabethan times. In episode 1, the episode is called Can You Keep Your Kip? And for those who don't know, kip is often used to, even now, it's used to signify like a nap or just to sleep. But if you go back in time a little bit, a kip was somewhere you can sleep. So that's how it's used in Sigil. So that's pretty much it for Big and Small. You'll discover more about him. And we have big plans for Mr. Small. So Sigil is the official name of the city, but it goes under many a name. The center of the universe, the center of the multiverse. It also goes under the name The Cage. While it is very easy to get to Sigil because many portals get to Sigil, it's actually a lot harder to get out. A lot of people call it the cage because they have arrived quite easily, but don't find an easy way out. Some people call it the big donut, and the reason for that is that the city is in the shape of a donut, a big wheel. You have to imagine that the city is floating in the air above a very, very tall spire, a rock pillar formation that's jutting out very, very high in the sky. And that pillar is situated in the plane of the outer lands. So the pillar juts out very high, and floating above it, not connected to the spire in any way, floating above it is the city of Sigil. And the city is shaped in the shape of a donut, and the town itself is created alongside the inside of the donut. So if you are, and so the gravity is very strange. And so while you are on one side of the donut, for example, you can see the other side. So imagine you were in a roller coaster, for example, and the roller coaster stopped in the middle of a loop, and the wagon is quite long, so you would be able to see the people on the other side of the loop. That's exactly the perspective that the people living in Sigil see every day. So that's how the city is shaped. And obviously, one very famous name for Sigil is the City of Doors, and that's because anything and everything can lead to it. It's full of portals, it's full of teleportation circles, and because of its position as the center of the multiverse, many pathways leads to it, and a lot of people use Sigil as a midway point to go to other places. So it's got a unique position in the multiverse, especially as a merchant town. It's got a really unique space, a unique spot in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. Because Sigil is in this very special space and has many doors that leads to it, that means that any race, any creature can be found in this town. And so you don't see just the traditional humanoid races that you would have in a regular D&D settings. You can have celestials sharing a beer with people that are from the Nine Hells, and they won't beef. They will keep the peace, because open fighting in Sigil is not allowed. It's kind of a very diplomatic space where people are here to exchange ideas, to exchange worldviews, but they're not there to continue their fight. And if people do not understand that, it won't take long before they're taken out. It's not only the humanoids you'll see here, you'll see very monstrous race. Anything that's sentient and that can have a conversation in any language possible will be found here. Alright, so let's dive a little bit more deeper into the characters themselves. If you've listened to the episode, you have noticed that they're quite special. When we went into character creation, I told my players that this was basically what I call a yes game. And what I mean by yes game is that they can come to me with any crazy ideas that they have, and that I'll try my best to make it happen. And they went out there. So most of the races are not usually playable races. I mean, what we have in there are, we have a succubus, we have an illithid, there is the toy robot is based off the autognome, and we have a plasmoid. That's the stats that we went for, but how it's flavored is much more like a magical ooze-like being. And then a little bit later in the game, we have a rabbit that joins the game, and this one is a Harangon template that we've added. So if you guys are interested, I'll share with you how I've adapted the succubus and the illithid to be playable races. Since Sigil is so different than any other place, it's not strange. In the setting that we are in, they do not stand out. A character like Inkton, who was a bottle of ink that was magically transformed to be sentient, is not that strange in a city like Sigil. It might be completely extraordinary in a setting like the Forgotten Realms, but in Sigil, nothing to bat an eye about. So the characters, I wanted them to be quite memorable, and I think they have answered the challenge. I really like them, and I think you will too. You might be wondering, what is the Hive and why can't the character leave the district? The Hive is the biggest neighborhood in Sigil, and essentially it is the poorest neighborhood, and it is where most of the outsiders, so the people who aren't citizens to Sigil, end up in. And it is also the neighborhood where the poor people live. Very similar to a modern city, Sigil has this neighborhood where marginalized people are pushed in, and they are overly policed. They will also be overly fined, and they have very little access to good food and other essentials. The reason why it's called the Hive is because at the center of this neighborhood there is this giant structure in the shape of a beehive. And it is in fact a bunch of different tenement buildings that have been stuck together and built upon on top of each other and have formed this type of giant dome where you can go inside, and there are a bunch of different passageway and bridges to go in between the different levels. Physically, the Hive is cut off from the rest of the city. On the eastern side, if you were to lay the donut flat, on the eastern side you have a massive wall of trash. It is very compact and is quite high. And on the western side you have some type of fissure that is also kind of a river. It's called the ditch, and it's mostly open sewage. A lot of the flying ships arrive through there, so it's also quite dangerous to be in the way of those passing ships. Going over the ditch are a couple of different bridges, and those bridges are heavily patrolled by the police force that's called the Harmonium. The Harmonium is there to check paper. If you are a citizen, you receive papers that confirm your identity and that you are in fact allowed to leave the Hive to access the different parts of the city. It is possible to receive day passes or special permission to have access to other parts of the city. And however, you must return for curfew if you receive a day pass or special permission. That's the main hurdle that the party has to face straight on right as the campaign opens. Another thing about this particular campaign is that most of the story will be happening in the same location. Most of it will happen in Sigil, and so the feel of it is different because they will not travel from town to town. They have a home that they will need to defend, and they also have jobs. They have been in Sigil for a little while. They all come from outside, and so they are themselves clueless, and they have made a life in the Hive. They have to foster contacts. They have to revisit places that they've been quite a while, and also that means that if they destroy their neighborhood, there will be consequences. The people will remember them, and so I quite like the change of pace as far as campaigns go. The upkeep is quite different. They have salaries, and we don't track rations, but at the end of each week they have to pay rent. They all live in the same building, which is the House of the Griffin, with their very, very sweet landlord. His name is Zan. He's a half-elf. He's a father to a sweet boy named Mikiel. And yeah, they're under attack from an evil corporation. And they're basically fighting gentrification. So it's a very modern objective. But that's also, again, like, it feels a little bit different than to have to fight like I don't know, like homegrown terrorism in a kingdom. So it's a bit different. So because they have been living and have worked a job for a little while, I've each given a contact to my players. So each character have a contact to which they can turn to if they need a little bit of help. And so, for example, Kindred, the small robot, works for the Center for Vermin and Disease Control, and his boss is Orlean. And Orlean is a Gitzerai who pays for each cranium rat tail that is brought back to his office. Orlean can help with traps, for example. Traps and poisons he can sell to the party. If we take both Salik, the Elithid, and Inkton, the Plasmoid, both of them work at the Gatehouse. And the Gatehouse is a quite a big center for anything health related. It has an orphanage inside, it has a hospital, and it has an asylum. So Salik works with Dr. Pavel. Dr. Pavel is a strange man who is afflicted with a very strange condition. And he works in the research department on very strange maladies that are mostly thought to be uncurable in the multiverse. And Inkton works more into the biology department and the research on different creatures. She works with Dr. Mateen. Dr. Mateen is a very small and old orc. And Farid Mateen is, he's a very kind person. And he's just very happy to have found a person like Inkton. Inkton's very special abilities helps greatly Dr. Mateen in his research on anatomy. As for Agrat, and that is Beatrice Bazlan. And Bazlan is a RNE, but she's been in Sigil for quite a while now, and she is the owner of the Bottle and Jug. And under the cover of her dance hall, she has quite a lot of pull in the influence. She knows what's going on in the hive quite a lot, and she can help other devils who have run from the Nine Hells. So she's of great help to Agrat, who has had to leave everything behind to come to Sigil. So those are the contact, and you'll see more of those NPCs. They come back quite a lot. So the characters receive a quite intriguing letter at during the first episode, and that letter is the catalyst for the whole campaign. And that letter was sent by Level Up Luxury Condominium Corporation. Which you can see the full text here.
Into building 6,058,492,
located on Alley of Lingering Sighs, colloquially named House of the Griffin, in the Hive on Street Block number 820,720. You are receiving this letter as per Housing and Development Regulation Code of Sigil Section 27A. Intention of purchase of street block
by private contractor with destruction of buildings requiring eviction. We are getting evicted. What the fuck?
Level Up Luxury Condominium Corporation has applied for the purchase of the street block upon which the building you are currently residing in is located. We are legally bound to advise you of this and have to let you know that public hearings will be held concerning the future of street block 820,720 this upcoming date. Third clerk, in the month of accordant at 2 hours to peak. The location will be the Hall of Speakers in the Tri-Anim number 18. Should you wish to oppose the purchase of street block number 820,720, this will be the place to do so. We invite you to
visit our temporary office in the Hive, to burn it down at 27
Black Boot Walk to see a miniature of the Project Level Up Luxury Condominium Corporation, to see a miniature of the project we have for your street block. We are open to selling you a unit in the new project at a discounted price should you be open to support Level Up Luxury Condominium Corporation in its purchase of street block 820,720. How should we end this letter? How about, let's be neighbors. That sounds friendly, yeah? Let's go with that. Let's be neighbors. Dictated to Miss Mona Zogby by Erasmus Kane. I can't believe we have to send these to every last one of these damn cockroaches. Did you get everything, Miss Zogby? Thank you.
Let's be neighbors. Dictated to Miss Mona Zogby for Mr. Erastus Canna.
I'm going to burn this motherfucker to the ground.
Obviously, that does not sound good. As the players notice right away, this means bad news for their house. And so that's the premise for the game. There is one subject that I wanted to talk about before we release the second episode, and that is the Sigil calendar. Now, the calendar is a bit different than our calendar. First of all, it has 13 months instead of 12, and each month has 28 days. They don't go by the same names as we use for the days of the week. They have their own name. And that is important because how they go about going through the month is not the same as us. I'm going to go through an example using our name of the weeks, just so it's more easily understandable. So instead of going from 1 to 28 during a month, they would go as such. First Monday, first Tuesday, first Wednesday, first Thursday, first Friday, first Saturday, and first Sunday. And then for the second week, instead of going to number 8, so Monday the 8th, they will go second Monday, second Tuesday, second Wednesday, and so on. So they don't go from 1 to 28, they go from first Monday, second Monday, third Monday, and fourth Monday. And so they go like that for every month. What's interesting about this is that because you go more about the first week, second week, third week, or fourth week in the month, you always know where you are in the month. So if I give you an appointment and I say, we're going to meet on fourth Thursday, you always know it never moves around in the month. You know that I'm talking about the fourth week and I'm talking about the Thursday. So they go about their month in this fashion. They just use different names for their days instead of going with the names of Monday through Sunday. Their names for the month are also different, and they look very different from one another, quite strange. But it is that way because each faction that was important in Sigil at that time when they were making the calendar was asked to name one month in the calendar. So that's why they are very different from one another, but they make a lot of sense when you can reference them to the faction that name them. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is how they keep time in Sigil. Because Sigil, it's its own thing, it's sitting really high up in the sky. There is no sun. There is no natural light at all in Sigil. The way light acts is the Lady of Pain creates the ambient light. So for half of the day, there is an ambient light that's going to imitate somewhat a sun, but there is no astral object in the sky. There will just be a general illumination that is going to intensify all the way to noon, and from noon to midnight, it's gonna go down. And so there will be general darkness for half of the day, and general lightness for half of the other day. And how they call that is at noon, they call it peak, and at evening, at midnight, they call it anti-peak. So let's say that I want to have a meeting later in the night at 10 p.m. I'm going to say at 2 hours to anti-peak. So that's how they talk our time in Sigil, because making any reference to an astral body would make no difference. There is none. It's a strange system, and at first with the players we thought that we would not use it, but then what happened, and to my surprise with the players, we just started adopting it because that's what it made more sense in RP to reference to. Why would you talk about time in our way when it makes no sense for your character to speak that way? So it was strange, but the characters, the players just started adopting it very, very easily. And then for the days, at first, also, I said to the players, I'm going to share the calendar with you, but I don't think I will reference to it too much because it's difficult, it's complicated. I don't think I'm going to use it. And then we just all adopted it. So that's why I'm sharing it with you. You guys can have a look at it and let me know what you think of this system. I personally really like it. So I hope this helps with future episodes. You might have to revisit this to figure out what the hell are we talking about in the future episodes.